Welcome. The angry appliance repair person. For the record, you're looking at him. This presentation is going to be about ice machines. Now, these are the ice machines that are normally under people's counters in their house. They are machines that continuously make ice. Now, the machine that I'm speaking of specifically is the one that has the drain. There are a couple different kinds of ice machines out there, but this one is the one that makes what we call fresh ice. Fresh ice means that the old ice drains out of the machine down into a drain, and the machine keeps making ice and continually making new ice. Now, why is it so slow? One of the big complaints I get about these ice machines, which are becoming very popular, these ice machines need to be cleaned. If they are not cleaned regularly, what happens is the machine will build up with sediment from your water, and the sediment ends up sticking onto the coil, and it doesn't let the ice off that coil to drop into the container. Now, the container is actually part of the ice machine itself. Unlike an ice maker, which is what you have in your refrigerator, or freezer, those ice makers, basically, you don't have to really do anything with those as long as they're working. They just make ice. They have an arm. Once the arm is up, the bucket is full, it stops making ice. You take ice away, the arm drops, and it makes more. This is different. This one drains it. So even if you don't open the door for months, it is still making ice because it will melt away the old ice on the bottom, drop the level so the new ice can be made. My point, this ice machine does not shut off unless you shut it off. So the sediment from your water can get onto the coil and actually cause the cubes not to drop. The most common problem is when your ice machine is too slow, is that it needs to be cleaned. Every instruction manual that comes with an ice machine will tell you the proper way of cleaning it. You need to get an ice machine cleaner. Now, in my experience, most of the time, ice machine cleaners, especially for home units, are basically the same. I have taken type A from brand A, and I have put it in type B for brand B. I've never had a problem. Ice machine cleaner can be switched. Always check the manual for the instructions on how to do it. It is not as hard as you think it is. If you want to pay a serviceman to come out and clean it for you, there should be plenty of servicemen out there that'll do it, but it isn't really that hard of a procedure to clean the ice machine. But if you don't clean it, the sediment builds up, and then the ice drops very slowly, that you get very little ice, and it looks deformed. The ice doesn't look the way it should, whether it's square, it's round, whatever shape it is. It doesn't look the way it should because it can't make the ice properly because it is too dirty. The question I get all the time is, when do I clean it? In my opinion, that depends on how much you leave it run. This is one of the few appliances where I will say, if you're not using the ice for 3 or 4 months, turn it off. Don't let it keep making ice, building up dirt on that coil if you are not using the ice at that particular time. But if you let it run all year and you use ice out of it all year, I would say at least twice a year it should be cleaned. But if there are times where you'll turn it off for 2 or 3 months just because you have no use for the ice out of it, or you're not entertaining, you don't have people over, so therefore you don't need it, maybe only once a year will it be necessary. But you tell it's time to be cleaned when that ice is just not dropping and it's taking way too long for it to make. It is still making ice, but it's making it very slowly. That is a sign saying, I must get my manual out and I must clean my ice machine. One other minor note, the scoop. Sometimes I find the ice scoop inside the ice machine. That is not good. There's a sensor in there, and the sensor's job is to sense when that bucket is full. If the scoop is in the wrong position, the sensor might pick that up and not make any ice. Always make sure the scoop is back where it belongs. But most of the time, if it is too slow, it is telling you it needs to be cleaned. Handle it yourself. It's really not that hard. It usually does not take any tools. Just pour some cleaner in, take 1 or 2 pieces out, you're all set. but it's up to you. But whatever you do, if you own one of these, do not ignore it, because then this will happen. And of course, it always happens right when you need it. It always happens when you have 15 people coming over to celebrate a birthday, and now you don't have ice for the adults to have their adult beverages so the kids can go play and everybody's happy. So make sure you clean it. The Senile Thought each week is going to be about, we are bringing back our Abracadabra brand of appliance. Is competition good or bad? This particular customer wants to buy our makeup brand of Abracadabra appliance. Should she go to a big box store or should she go to a mom and pop store? Now, in my experience, I have actually been to a lot of customers who own mom and pop stores. And this can be anything. This can be a car. This can be a toaster. This can be a shovel. I don't care. But should you go to the big box or mom and pop? And I was surprised when I went to a person's house to fix something and they owned a mom and pop something. And I would say to them, does that big box store hurt your business because it is so close? And the answer is almost always the same. No, it doesn't. In fact, having that competition of that big box store being so close to our store is actually helped, because there's a lot of people that will go to one or the other, not be happy for whatever reason, whether it's information, whether it's product, whatever the case may be, and then they will end up going to the other one. I personally go to both. I go to the mom and pop store sometimes to get what I want. I go to the big box store sometimes to get what I want. It depends on what I want. And sometimes I will go to both and then use the competition, both for price, for availability, for lots of different reasons on which one to buy from. So in my opinion, competition is good. And as I said earlier, I was actually surprised on how many people own a mom and pop store that are happy the big box store is not that far, because they use that competition to their advantage to be able to sell certain things they don't have, or to offer certain, I will use the word luxuries, that sometimes you can get here or here that the other does not offer. It helps the customer and it helps business. So as a consumer, you can decide which one to go to. A lot of people think, well, I think we should go to the mom and pop store, not the big box store, because I want to support small business. I agree with that. But remember, my neighbors are going to work at that big box store. That is how they get paid. They are working there just as much as they're working there. So even though the big box store is a national chain, your neighbor could have a job there. So by you going there, you are giving them a job to help, as they say, feed their families just as much as the mom and pop. So in my opinion, I think you go to both, which is what I do, just depending on what I'm looking for. I don't alienate one over the other. I like to go to both to buy certain things, whether it is a made-up Abracadabra appliance or it is something else that is something I need for my own house. That is my opinion. Agree with it or not, keep it in mind. So, as always, we thank you for spending some of your day with us.